Belichick and his Patriots team. But moving forward, I have no doubt that they'll be able to figure it out. They'll make do with the personnel that's on this roster. So if you're saying that you're a little short-handed with wide receivers, well, let's look at what the Patriots do have. They've got two really good tight ends in Rob Gronkowski, Dwayne Allen, and then they've got some good running backs. They got Jeremy Hill from the Cincinnati Bengals to go along with James White, Rex Burkhead, and their first-round pick, Sony Michel. So there are a lot of different ways that Bill Belichick will skin a cat. He can do a lot of different personnel groupings that can play like a three-wide receiver set. You can go with 12 with Dwayne Allen and Rob Gronkowski on the field at the same time, split one of them out, and you got a three-wide receiver look. So, I mean, they'll find a way to figure it out and move past the deficiencies that they have in that wide receiver position, especially during the early part of the season with the 4-game suspension for Julian Edelman.
Listen, you might think higher of Dwayne Allen as a pass catcher than I do. So I look at the Patriots and I say, the two guys who I have most faith in them for the first month, without Edelman, catching passes are a tight end and a running back. And by the way, the running back, James White, wasn't even their best pass-catching running back last year. That was Dion Lewis. This is and they have earned it, but this is the situation the Pats are in where they're the only team in the league that would have this wide receiving core, even with Gronk, and we would say they'll figure it out. Right? Like, they're the only team in the league that we would say, oh, how are they going to get production at the wide receiver position? Chris Hogan's going to have a big year. And that will Braxton Berrios, a 6th-round pick. They're going to revitalize Eric Decker. Like, they're the only team in the league that we would go into it and say their quarterback's not being put in a really rough spot. Now, they've earned it historically. But I would argue until Edelman gets back, this is the least accomplished receiver group Brady has dealt with since he took over there.
Yes, and the reason why we do it is because they have 12. If they didn't have 12, they wouldn't have to do this. But we've seen them figure it out more so than any team. So we have to give them credit. I don't look at their first 4 games, 5-game schedule as being very, very tough the way we've seen it before. It's not as tough as some of the other top teams that we see. They get through week 1 and 2, they can get a couple wins in week 3, 4, 5.
If people should know, Houston and then at Jacksonville for the first 2 weeks. But then it's Detroit, Miami, Indy. So 3, 4, 5 is soft. The first 2 weeks, those are tough defenses. But the question I would have for you guys is this. We always say Patriots are game plan specific, right? What if the game plan they want to implement, what if they look at a defense and they say where we can take advantage of them is not with our running backs, it's not with our tight ends, but they got weak corners. We want to take advantage of them with our wide receivers. Like, do they have the personnel to do that this year? That's my question.
No, they don't have the personnel to do that. Only way you can do that is what Canty said before, is just do it based on formations. You can get your best wide receiver, that being Rob Gronkowski. If they have weak corners, you can put formations in that take the tight end. Just erase it. He's not a tight end. He's a wide receiver. Let's move him out wide. So we can get to certain areas on the field because if we feel like it's not based on certain plays, but it's based on position, where we need to get to. Of course, that's what Josh McDaniels and him coming back, being teamed with Brady, that's what they will do. You attack certain areas of the field compared to it being personnel driven. We're going to get outside, and we're going to either do it by the pass, throwing it to Gronk, or let's move a running back out there. Let's throw it to him in space and have these cornerbacks make some tackles.
Is this offense, the offensive line and this receiving core, is it so depleted that you have to actually change your game plan now? Do the Patriots have to change that in any way, or are they still going to make do with what they have?
Well, the Patriots, more so than any other offense in the NFL, is game plan specific. They look at the opposing defense and they figure out what their deficiencies are, what they don't do well, and then they always put those players in situations where they expose the weaknesses and exploit the weaknesses of those individuals.
Yeah, Jenna, just to help this out a little bit, it's game plan specific as far as what they do,
right,
but it's paramount on what we do and what we can't do. So the Patriots always know what they can't do. They're better at self-scouting. That's what Canty's talking about. Self-scouting themselves, knowing, you know something, we don't have that much speed. So how we do it? Let's do a lot of motion.
Right.
Let's do some hocus pocus. Let's move guys around. Let's get them confused. You know what they do now? Let's play fast.
Yep.
Let's catch the defense off guard. Let's go now. Let's go right now.
And they are the best I've ever seen at that. At that, when you know the defense is in a rough spot, we're not going to let you substitute. We're just going to go back to the line. Brady is brilliant at that. But I want to bring up Rob Gronkowski for a moment. Because a couple days ago, we found out Isaiah Wynn's out for the year. And we said, okay, now Rob Gronkowski is going to have even a bigger impact on the offensive line as a down-the-line blocker. We now are talking about their wide receivers. Well, now Rob Gronkowski, in addition to being a part-time offensive lineman this year, is going to have to be a part-time wide receiver this year. Now, Gronk's the best tight end in the league. And one of the reasons he's the best tight end in the league is because he does both those things you ask tight end to do, block and pass catch, as well as anybody. But he's also a guy who doesn't play 16 games. And so, like, we are now saying for the first time that I can remember with the Patriots, they can't have a Gronk injury. We've seen him win a Super Bowl, get to a Super Bowl without Rob Gronkowski. This year, they cannot deal with a Rob Gronkowski injury. They won the AFC Championship game last year without Rob Gronkowski.
Yes.
And so that's not the position that they find themselves in this season.
No, I get what you're saying, Nick. But again, with that problem, because Rob Gronkowski is going to have to be asked to be a blocker and a pass catcher, you can do a lot of different things from formations and personnel groupings that can answer the questions in terms of figuring out the deficiencies on the offensive line. One of the things that Bill Belichick likes to do, he likes to go 12X. That X stands for an offensive lineman coming in the game and playing a tight end position. So that allows you that allows you to put Rob Gronkowski in the slot or out wide as a receiver in that offense, and you got a matchup problem defensively because you got to decide between nickel or base personnel. If you're in base, they're going to throw the ball to Rob Gronkowski. If you're in nickel, they're going to run the ball down your throat. Those are the answers that Tom Brady and Bill Belichick and Josh McDaniels have. So they've seen so much football, whatever it is in terms of a deficiency personnel-wise, they can figure it out week to week.
Now, just to button up his comments, they got a lot of new faces.